Holy helvete, guys! Guess what? We got even more Three Houses news. This time around, it's a huge Reddit post made by a user called Satsuma over at the Fire Emblem subreddit, who just delivered a huge information dump to us. I went to bed so late last night editing the last video, and I just woke up now, had some breakfast, and I'm like, holy shit, let's jump into it. More Fire Emblem news. Jesus Christ, this is so much fun. So, as always, I will be linking to the Reddit thread in the comment section if you want to go read it for yourself. It's a really good one. I'm going to try and narrow it down a little bit to a bit more digestible size. So let's talk about Fodlan's calendar. So, the calendar will be playing a big part in Three Houses. It's going to be the same as ours, with 12 months and 7 days a week. During weekends, you'll have time to just explore the monastery and have some time off, and during the weekdays, you will be teaching your students, just like a regular school. This means that you have limited time to perform activities before a chapter rolls in. The game will be separated into monastery parts and the actual chapters. So you spend 1 month at your monastery teaching your students, and then after a month has passed, you go out into the field and you do a chapter. This really reminds me of a controlled version of XCOM. If you played XCOM, you would know that you spend time in the base, and then as time progresses, suddenly missions will appear and you go out and you fight the aliens. And you have limited time in the base to do the stuff you want before you are forced out on a mission. This very much reminds me of that system, except that it seems very predictable, since there will always be 1 month in between each chapter, which means that you'll have 4 weeks to teach students. Now you'll be able to check this calendar to see all the little events that will appear. Obviously, you'll have your students' birthdays, which I assume will give some bonuses to them. There's also going to be certain festivals. For example, right here it says there's something called Sweet Flavors Boost Week. I assume that when you cook at the monastery, sweet food will be giving increased buffs. There's something called the Choir Festival, which I assume will buff people who likes to sing, such as Dorothea and Manuela. There's also something called Earth's Blessing, which is very similar to the system we have in Heroes. This leads me to believe that if characters have affinities, then maybe certain affinities will be boosted during certain time periods. So in various seasons, some characters might be better than other characters. The calendar will be very central to the gameplay, and you'll very much need to manage your time and make sure that you try and do all the things that you need to do before the month is over, and you gotta go out on a mission. I personally love this. I absolutely adored XCOM, and having to manage your base versus the battle is actually one of the reasons why I enjoyed XCOM so much, and this very much seems like it got inspired by XCOM. So if that's how it's gonna work, I think it's gonna be super fun. So let's talk about something called Instruction Energy. This is a stat you have that dictates how many students you can teach in a week. The more Instruction Energy you have, the more students you can teach and the better skills that you can give them. I assume that you'll be raising your instruction level simply by leveling up and doing things at the monastery. Students will also have something called motivation, which will dictate how much they can be taught. And this motivation can go up and down based on seemingly random events, but also how good of a teacher you are. So here we can see a picture of you teaching Dimitris, and there is a blue arrow that indicates that he is good at the subject. In this case, it's swordplay. So by teaching him swordplay, he'll get a +4 bonus to it, and he'll also get a +2 bonus simply from being good at it. And then he also gets another +2 from the mentor bonus, which might be a skill or maybe a bond between him and you that just makes it easier to teach him. Aside from Instruction Energy, you also have 2 other types of energy. You have Strolling Energy and Sorting Energy. When your instruction level goes up, these 2 energies will also increase. Now, it seems to be that Strolling Energy dictates how much you can explore the monastery. So, for example, strolling, that would mean like walking about the monastery, I would imagine. So, the more energy you get, the more you can explore the monastery. It seems like running around and doing stuff will very much take time and energy. So the more strolling energy you have, I guess the more you can explore around. And then you got something called sorting energy, which I would assume would be doing chores and other duties aside from teaching. Maybe, you know, reading and cleaning up your office. I don't know, this is starting to sound a whole lot like Sims. It also very much seems like there are random events that can increase motivation, kind of similar to the castle events in Phase, where you would talk to people there and they'd get like a surge of energy. There's going to be some RNG involved. Here is a picture of Mercedes saying, "Haha, I'm happy to hear that. I'll make you some candy next time, alright teacher." There's an event here saying that the two of you invited have a higher motivation than usual. So it would appear that students can randomly gain boosts to their motivation and other stats. So just like in Fates, there's a bit of RNG involved with all of this. So let's talk a little bit more about student motivation and how you can impact it. So you'll be doing a lot of talking with your students and they will be asking you for advice. So here Dorothea is asking you a question. She's wondering why boys tend to go for plainly cute girls rather than peerless beauties. And then she asks you, why do you think that is? And you have 3 responses. You can either tell her that it's hard to reach out to someone better than you, or it's all about trends, or people get bored of eating high-end cuisine every day. First of all, Dorothea, I think you'll find that guys will go for you no matter what. It's also kind of funny that she sort of refers to herself as a peerless beauty. So she is very aware of her own beauty, I guess, but she's sort of frustrated that guys are interested in the other girls. I don't know, maybe guys at the Garrick Monastery have shit tastes. I don't know. I don't imagine Dorothea will find it hard to get attention. I don't know if there's a wrong answer here, but since you get 3 alternatives, I would like to think that at least some of them would grant more motivation than others based on Dorothea's personality. So this will be a very common trend. Students will coming in, they'll be asking you questions and you'll need to give them advice, and based on how good your advice is, you'll give them more or less motivation. Here we see again Lorenz is asking about the girls. He is wondering why all the girls are really cool towards him, and he says, I wonder if they think I'm a flower on the peak out of their reach. Well, in my case, I'd be the rose on the peak, right? And you can tell him either, how about telling a joke to lighten the mood, or try smiling at them funny, or it's part of being the rose on the peak. And I don't see which response Byleth picks here, but Lorenz answers, I'm satisfied with that. And it says motivation up, instruction level up, strolling, instruction energy increased, funds increase. So from that response, apparently he gave you money or something, I don't know. I assume that if you give the correct responses, you get a myriad of different boosts. I wonder if this is just gonna be like, as a teacher, do we just have to play to their ego? Do we just have to give them answers that they are satisfied with? Or should we tell them the truth? Because Lorenz, from what I understand, he's a bit of a dick. Should we just tell them what they want to hear, or should we tell them what they need to hear? This is gonna be a big aspect of teaching, I think, because if we just gotta tell them what they need, what they want to hear, we're essentially just playing into their egos and making them worse. This is gonna be very interesting to see how they handle this, actually. Next up, let's talk about setting goals for your students. So, students can train on their own without needing you to teach them everything, and this is done by giving them goals. So, it seems to me like you decide their goals, but it's worded in this article like they decide their own goals. Maybe it's a mixture. Maybe you can set goals for them and maybe they also decide their own goals. Because right here, Linhardt is saying, I've decided I want to study reason. When I end up needing to attack no matter what, being able to do so without a weapon would be nice. I want to increase my options by learning magic. And then you get asked if you want to train reason and faith, and then it says Linhardt's goal has been changed. So whenever a student has a goal, they'll automatically gain +2 in that skill every single week, which allows them to be trained without you constantly needing to teach them. So it would appear that setting goals for your students would be a very good way of like automatically level them up, so that they'll get stronger each week. I do wonder if they're able to set their own goals though, or if you have to set all their goals for them. It's going to be very interesting to see. Then we have something called group tasks, and this is very much like sending your students out on group missions where they will perform tasks together, which will increase their supports. A lot of people actually pointed this out when I showed off the screenshot with Dorothea and Bernadetta talking. This was actually a group task where they increased their support with one another. So here we see that very same screenshot with Bernadetta and Dorothea gathering, weeding the grass at the monastery. And what they get out of this task is they get a support level with one another, they get 500 gold, and you also obtain 3 forging stones, which I assume is like a resource used to forge your equipments. So you send these students out on group tasks together. It can be various things like chores around the monastery, or maybe they just study together, or maybe they actually go out and fight together, and as a result they might get experience, you can get gold, you can get these forging stones, and it also increases their support. I do wonder if the only way to increase student supports is via these group tasks, or if you can also deepen supports on the battlefield by having units standing next to each other, classic Fire Emblem style. Next up, we have something called the Talent Awakening. So your students are good at stuff and they are bad at stuff. The things that they are good at inherently, they get a bonus in when they teach, such as Dimitri, he gets a bonus in sword skills whenever you teach him that. However, they also have a weakness, a minus in certain skills. Some students are just bad at certain tasks. However, this is where the talent awakening system comes in. So for example, Dorothea is very bad at Faith, which is light magic. She isn't good at it. She will get a minus whenever you try to teach it to her. However, if you go out of your way to focus on a student's weakness, you might activate something called an awakening, which means that you sort of circumvent their weakness and actually give them a bonus instead. So apparently being a good teacher is all about finding your students' weakness and overcoming them. So here Dorothea learned a new skill called White Magic Avoid plus 20. She was previously bad at learning light magic, but because you focused on it and overcame her weakness, she gained a special skill as a result. So it would actually seem like if you really want to focus on it, you should actually go out of your way to teach students skills that they suck at, and you might activate an awakening. This might seem like a bit of a gamble. Maybe not all students will awaken in certain skills, maybe they just will awaken in some fields. So maybe, let's say you have a guy that's really bad at armor and you go out of your way to teach him armor skills, maybe he'll never have an awakening, but if he does, he'll get a unique armor skill out of it. This is good because one of the things that I was worried about with this skill system was that, let's say Petra sucks at bows, but she's good at swords. Well, you'd make her a Myrmidon every single playthrough, wouldn't you? Because she's just better at swords. Why would you make her an archer? But now, let's say Petra's bad at using bows, you spend a lot of resources on her teaching her archery, she might get a unique bow skill out of it, which will actually make her a good archer if you actually invest a lot of resources into her. So that's a really cool system. It actually encourages you to take risks and specialize in fields that your students are not good at in order to trigger this talent awakening. That's super good. That adds to replay value. That tells me that they really thought the system out. It's not just as simple as just giving someone -2 in something and +2 in something else and just letting the player do what they want. You're actually encouraging the player to actively pursue your students' weaknesses, which I really like. 2 thumbs up, really. So this is just like a very condensed version, sort of like a TLDR of the article. There are so many little details in this. There are tons of screenshots, so I really encourage you to go and read it yourselves if you really want to get all the information. This was just, as I said, sort of like a quick summary of the article itself. It's really long. There's a ton of screenshots. There's also a lot of helpful comments in the thread itself, so definitely go visit it. Give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Satsuma, for your detailed posts. This is just insane. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Smash a like button, and again, thank you so much to all my fans who keep tagging me in the news, allowing me to instantly get notified when new things are released. It really helps me out a lot. Subscribe for more Fire Emblem content and Treehouse's news, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
I look to you.